Welcome to another live stream. This is where we're talking about burnout. So burnout doesn't start with a collapse. It typically starts by patterns, by starting with loops, repeating patterns you don't realize you're trapped in. The avoidance loops that keeps you cycling on the same task. The overwhelming loops where you sprint and then crash. The cynicism loops that drain you from everything. Drain every meaning for everything you do. So the way out isn't motivation, it's strategy. And that's what we're here to talk about. So welcome to another Thrive Space live stream. We are excited for another Tuesday. It's a Transformation Tuesday, a terrific Tuesday, but you might not be feeling it just yet. We are going to get you there. So I have burnt out myself last year. It was a buildup over the years, over patterns that were unhealthy that I didn't necessarily appreciate I was in. I certainly recognized some of the patterns and some of the unhelpful behaviors that impacted how I showed up and then resulted in the outcomes I did not want. And of course, when you don't get the outcomes you want, you then get caught in that cycle. So I've been there. I know what it's like. And we're here to help you get out of that cycle, break the pattern. And so that's what this one is all about. And I'm here in Vancouver for the summer. It's a beautiful day. It's a sunny day, much better than last week. So we're here. We're talking about burnout. We're talking about strategies to get out of those patterns, out of those cycles. And so hopefully you will go from feeling like there's no hope, that you're in this loop, that you can't just get out of it, to having practical strategies saying, I can do this, right? Because it's up to you. You can experiment with what works for you, because what works for someone else might not necessarily be what you need. So it's having a toolbox of strategies that you can use, you can pick from, and experiment on each day. So just take one thing out of today. That is all you need to do in order to break the pattern. So I was caught in multiple patterns, and you might be too. So it's a matter of breaking one pattern after another. Break it down. It doesn't need to be all at once. That can be feel overwhelming. It's just taking one step to help yourself today. And so you've already done one step, but it's taking another step. So you did the step of coming to this live stream. And so that is taking a step towards your well-being, towards your potential, and to break the pattern. So how are you feeling today? Probably, I'm assuming you're like how I was last year, sort of just not really feeling interested in things, and everything feels draining, conversations feel draining. You don't really want to have certain conversations, so you avoid them, you deflect. And you also have tasks that you are procrastinating on. You recognize that, and procrastination can show up in many different ways. So we'll definitely touch on that as well. So burnout. I talk about burnout quite a bit because I've been through it. I know what it's like, and it has a huge impact on your life. It did for me. And the reason why we're talking about it, because it is increasing. It is increasing these days. We've got the stats. The stats are shocking. They're staggering. It is 82% of individuals are at risk of burnout. That's a high number. Can you believe that? 82%. 9 in 10 are experiencing extreme stress. And 1 in 5 have taken time off work due to stress. So I don't know if you're in the 1 of 5, but it's certainly 2 of 5 in the younger generations. So if you are Gen Z or early millennial, the stats are more like 2 out of 5. So this is a huge, relevant topic that we're covering off today. It is something that's dear to my heart, because I don't want you to suffer the way I did. So do these stats surprise you? If you're in the corporate world, they might not. It doesn't necessarily surprise me, some of the stats in terms of 1 of 5, but certainly 9 out of 10 and 82% seem extremely high. They're at unprecedented levels. So what is this? What's causing this? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about burnout. Burnout has 3 criteria. So it all relates to work, but if you're experiencing these outside of work, these strategies are still relevant. So you might not necessarily get the label of burnout, but the strategies, the feelings, everything like that is still relevant. So the 3 criteria we've got on there on the screen: exhaustion. So this is overwhelming physical, mental, and emotional fatigue. You're just drained. You've got nothing left in your battery, nothing left on your phone battery. It's at 0%. You feel completely drained, lack of energy, struggle to recover. So even sleep does not help you to recover. The negativity or cynicism, that is the feeling of cynicism, the detachment from work. You've got no feeling, no meaning in your job anymore. So each task, it's almost like you're in observer mode rather than immersed in it. And yeah, for a job that I once loved, I no longer did. I didn't enjoy the tasks. I sort of dreaded the tasks. If this is you, if you have those Monday dreads or Sunday dreads, this is for you. So you may isolate yourself from colleagues or view tasks with resentment. So I certainly did. Those mundane admin tasks, those compliance tasks, is more beyond that. Even the projects, even just people asking you certain things, is all negative and skeptical. So I had a skeptical mindset, didn't necessarily trust others. This is all the negativity and cynicism. And then the last one there is feeling a failure or unsuccessful. So a decline in productivity and performance. You feel like a lack of accomplishment, doubt your skills, struggle to achieve results. So this is like, I'm not good enough. I'm feeling like a failure. I'm feeling like I'm behind. Are you feeling any of these today? So there are multiple loops, but we're only going to talk about 3, one for each of the criteria. So you can sort of get a flavor of what's actually happening. We cover more of this in our Clarity Under Pressure series. Some of the key elements that will help break free of these patterns. We also cover more day 1 relief in our Spark Speaker series. So depending on where you are, we've got the resources for you. Okay. So if you want more on this, this is just a flavor, but it'll give you an idea of what you're missing out on, or the hidden truths. So there are multiple loops, like I said, and if your life feels like it's a frozen loading screen, that is avoidance. If your phone's on 5% battery, that is overwhelm. Or if you're on a muted live stream, hopefully I'm not muted today, you're not alone. That is cynicism. All right. So what does all of this mean? This means that avoidance is when you're cycling on the same task. You're it's one that you're avoiding, it's on your mind, it's taking up energy, but you're not actually getting started with it. You're not doing it. And it's that one task that's actually going to take you from where you are to where you want to go. It's the expansive task, the hard task, the difficult task that you don't want to do, that meeting that you don't want to do. And then there's the overwhelming loop. That makes you sort of sprint and then crash. So in my old field with accountancy, that was busy season. So you just get through everything, you take on everything, and then you basically crash, and everyone gets sick right after busy season because our nervous system has been on high alert. We it's just basically adrenaline to get through those months, those busy months, and then all of a sudden our system crashes. So if you've been caught in that loop, this is for you. That is the overwhelm loop. And then the last one that we're covering off today, like I said, there's plenty more. Cynicism loop that drains the meaning from everything that you do. So you feel like a bit of detachment. You feel lack of purpose, lack of direction. That is for you. You feel like you've got a skeptical mind. Nothing is really giving you a sense of purpose, positivity, nothing like that. Right. So let's get started. The avoidance loop. So let's get it on, we've got the avoidance loop. This is when you're stuck on the loading screen. So like when your game freezes at 99%, and instead of restarting, you just stare at it, hoping for the magic to actually fix itself. So avoidance feels like you're almost doing the thing, but the discomfort makes you hover instead of act. And I've certainly felt this. Have you felt this one? This is where you are procrastinating because there's fear of disappointment. The fear of disappointment is basically pushing you towards procrastination. I know it doesn't make sense, but this is what happens, right? We don't want to start the task where we might fail. And then there's all of a sudden, we procrastinate right until the deadline, and then we receive a panic. It's a panic. Okay, I got to get this done. And we do it. We deliver. And that's the performance. And then we try and perfect it because we don't want to disappoint anyone. So then we go overboard with the perfection. We try and make it perfect in the last moments. And that in itself, perfectionism is procrastination in disguise. So if you're a perfectionist, this is procrastination. I know you don't want to hear it. I did not want to hear it either. That was something I had to realize this recovery journey. So this is, for me, procrastination. I was doing the quick wins. I was doing the chores instead of actually doing my work, doing other people's tasks and things like that before actually doing what's going to move me towards my vision and my goals. I was also doing the tasks that I was comfortable with. And this is something that popped up in my director panel. So I procrastinated preparing for my director panel. Possibly, I don't know why. Didn't have an explanation. I focused on a client project where, yes, I was the one person that could fix the issues, but it didn't need all of my time. Right? It didn't need all of the time I was dedicating to it. I was over dedicating time to procrastinate rather than actually do my director panel preparation. Surprisingly, I know it happens even at the leadership level. And that procrastination then has consequences and things like that. I then prepared it, basically over a weekend, pulled it together and so on. And then I tried to make it perfect, everything like that. But I could have actually done better with that presentation if I hadn't procrastinated it. If I hadn't left it to the last weekend. Other people are preparing for it for a long time, and I was doing it last minute. Why? Fear of disappointing others, fear of reputation, things like that is the fear-based that's causing the procrastination. So, and then perfectionism is you don't want to disappoint. So I didn't want to disappoint people, so I tried to make it perfect. So how do we stop this? How do we stop this loop, this cycle? Well, my friends, this is the next 10%. So the 10% rule. So avoidance breaks when you stop trying to finish the whole level. Just load the next 10%. So the fix isn't restarting the whole game, it's nudging the system forward past just the 10%. Because you're at 99%, you just need 1% to hit it over the mark, right? So move the joystick, tap the screen, do any tiny action that gets you out of the freeze. So how can we do this? It's talking about the next step. So break down the project into steps, right? You don't have to look at the entire staircase, just the next step. And that comes from Martin Luther King, right? It's just the next step. Seek clarity questions. So if you're not certain about how to do the next step, you can ask clarification questions. And that then brings it into the perfectionism. So is it good enough? Do I have enough information to do the next step? Not necessarily the entire project, just the next step. So seek that clarity. And then is it good enough? Just send it. So there's a 70% rule. Some people have 80%. Whatever your percentage is, it's not 100%. So it doesn't need to be perfect. Nothing ever needs to be perfect. Some things just need to be done. Some things need a bit more effort because they're higher stakes, but nothing ever needs to be perfect because nothing is perfect. We're just human. So good enough standard, make sure that you've got that, whatever it is for you, identify what needs more effort and also the value that others place on that item. So for me, that is what I realized during my career is that what I valued might not necessarily be what the other person values. So, my perfectionism, I was trying to get, say a presentation perfect, but did the partner care whether or not that was perfect? Possibly not. They cared more about speed, right? So it's understanding what the other person cares about and being able to tweak your priorities as to, all right, this is where I'm going to put my effort. This is where I'm going to put my energy, right? So it's not about getting everything perfect because I don't think anyone really expects perfection unless it's ourselves. So certainly get over that in terms of it's good enough, right? Just get it to good enough. And is this something that you can try this week? Yeah. Right. Well, it's important that we do get to this because shrinking the problems reduces the overwhelm. It reduces the stress. And if 90% of us are feeling extreme stress, we're not doing this. We're not shrinking our problems just down to the next step. So this is what you can do with the 10% rule. So it reduces the panic and it builds momentum because you're just focused on the next step, the next step, the next step, and it builds momentum. Small steps to build the momentum. And the good enough standard, this just gets the movement. So you get that next step in and it helps build that momentum because otherwise we can get trapped in the perfectionism loop and that is going to hold us back because no matter how much effort you put in, it'll never be perfect. So you can learn more about this in terms of our module 6 for clarity under pressure. That is where you make decisions with uncertainty. So the next one is the overwhelming loop. The overwhelming loop. Is this you? So you're running 12 apps at once on 5% battery. You're juggling Slack, Teams, email, people coming by, and 3 projects on the side. All while your internal battery is screaming for low power mode. You need to get the rest, but you can't get the rest. Overwhelm isn't about the apps. It's about the background processes that are draining you. There's too many apps going on at once. And the background processes are draining you. It's not an individual task. It's the overall consumed energy on trying to juggle all of them. Because our mind, our capacity to remember where we're at on all of the different projects, all the different emails and things like that, our mind has to switch between all of those and it consumes more energy, more focus, and it reduces our ability to perform. So what is the loop? The loop that often comes into play here is the fear of falling behind. FOMO, right? Fear of falling behind. Not being where you should be, where others are. Comparing to others, you feel behind. So you overcommit, saying yes to things that you shouldn't do. You're in that yes mode. I certainly have done this. Yes, I'll do that. Yes, I'll do that. Because I feel like if I say no, there'll be consequences. So this is where you get trapped with the boundaries. And then you overwork, right? So you're working those 14 plus hour days, and you are work is consuming your days. And then you crash. So in busy season, we worked a lot. during those early months of the year. And then we crash at the end of it. We just need to sleep. This is the overwhelming loop. And then that creates, because you crash, you then sort of like reinforces that fear of feeling behind, right? Because we know we shouldn't crash. So this is certainly busy season. It's certainly when I had two FTSE 10 audits at once. So the norm was one, but I was told in order to get a promotion, I had to do two. And so I did. So I said yes. I was in that yes mode. Yes, I'll do that in order to get a promotion, because I was having the fear of feeling behind. I needed to catch up with others. And with that, I did ridiculous hours, 20 plus days, 20 plus hour days. Yeah, didn't get much sleep. I was in London, living in London, but I could have been in any city. It took me a year and a half to realize I was actually in London. When I was helping a friend move, and the instructions to the taxi driver, I was reading them off, and it said turn left at Buckingham Palace. Yeah, that's when I realized we were in London, a year and a half into my secondment. So this is where you can get caught up in work and then you just crash because you're feeling behind. So how do we stop these thoughts? All right, so it is really down to not comparing ourselves to others. So unlearning the comparison loop. This is for you. So half those apps that are open because you're comparing yourself to everyone else, you have to feel like you're being productive, and you're comparing yourself to their productivity, their promotions, their pace, their grind, their aesthetics, their career timeline. And overwhelm breaks when you stop running your life like it's competition and start running it like it's your own device. Break free of the comparison culture. It's not about not comparing, but it's realizing that you can only compare what's visible, right? And no one has it all, right? The person who's the most productive might not necessarily have the same career timeline. They might not be the top for the career timeline in terms of the fastest through the ranks. The person that is working the most, once again, might not necessarily be the one that is getting those promotions. So just think no one has it all. There's always a give and take. And we've got to be on our own path. So everyone has a different starting point. Everyone has different strengths and weaknesses. People have hidden networks. You might not know that person that you're comparing to has an uncle or an aunt or some sort of relative that's in leadership. You might not know that. So things don't make sense to you, but they make sense in life. So it's about focusing on our own path and not comparing to others. And this is being said by someone who's a highly competitive person. So I was competitive. I like to be ahead, things like that. I don't know if you can relate, but certainly that was something that I would do, is I would compare myself to others and then have that inner critic in my head hold me back through criticism, saying I should be better on this, or I can do that. Why am I not doing that? Right? So that inner critic can hold us back, because you can feel the difference when it criticizes you versus empowers you and says, I've got this. We can do this. I've done this before. It's all good, right? That is uplifting. That's empowering. But the inner critic saying, you're behind. You got to catch up. You're not good enough. You should have done this. That detracts from you. That doesn't motivate you. So it's stop that comparison. Yes, we do compare, but it's realizing we only compare what's visible, and it's not the entire story. So are you feeling any of these today? Are you able to apply this today? So stop comparing to yourself to others and focus on yourself, your own path. It's important because that comparison does not serve us. The criticism impacts our emotions and our actions. We can choose to encourage ourselves by focusing on our own path, or say we're behind others when we're not. We're on our own path. because no one has the same path. This comparison, this criticism, it can lead to exhaustion and burnout. So more on the comparison culture. We've got a Spark Speaker series that is dedicated to this. It talks all about unlearning the comparison culture. So if you need more strategies with that, absolutely take a look at the Spark Speaker series on that one. Because like I said, only taking a surface level view here. There's deeper content on our website, so do check it out. The last one for today is the cynicism loop. So I don't know if you've experienced this, but I certainly have. So what is it? It is while you're watching life like a muted live stream. So you're present, but not in it. You're in observer mode. You're scrolling through your own day like it's background noise. Nothing feels meaningful. Nothing feels like you have purpose. Everything feels like deja vu, right? You're done with everything. Everything feels mundane. Nothing's driving you forward. You're looking for external motivation, but are getting nothing. So cynicism is the emotional equivalent of turning your volume down because you don't want to get invested. So you're going to turn that volume up. You're going to actually do something about it today. But let's just dive into what this loop looks like. So this cynicism loop, it is repeat disappointment. I felt this so much. So your irritation builds from unfairness and constant pressure. So it's like, just disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. All of your effort seems useless. So this can happen in dysfunctional teams, chaotic environments, and roles with constantly moving goalposts, which is what I have experienced. And what it does with that constantly moving goalposts, it erodes trust, right? You don't trust that your effort is then actually going to lead to the result that you want. You don't believe people. You lead with a skeptical mind, and you become emotionally distant. You isolate yourself from, or at least I isolated myself from colleagues because I couldn't believe them, right? And then you've got cynicism, and that reduces any type of motivation and meaning. So there's a loss of meaning. And then that reinforces the resentment, because the resentment then shifts to cynicism. What's the point? Nothing changes. A sense of resignation. So work feels heavier, stress increases, and burnout accelerates, because this is one of the criteria, cynicism. So for me, I showed up with lower energy. I led with a skeptical mind. People had earned my trust after I'd been disappointed after disappointment after disappointment. And I put things in writing. So I had some behaviors where, all right, I would put things in writing and then speak to the individual, or speak to the individual and then put things in writing. And it was just because I've been burned too many times with people backing out of things or moving the goalposts and things like that. But that can rub people the wrong way. And earning of trust, well, then you're going to have to earn their trust, because life's a mirror. So if we lead with distrust and skepticism, the other individuals that we meet will do the same. So it makes life harder. We're all coming up guarded with our shields up versus with open arms. And it's natural to do that. So it can feel unnatural to take our guard down, put the shield down, and have open arms, because we feel vulnerable. We're trusting, but it's the only way for others to trust us initially. So it is taking the step first. It's leading by example. It is putting that skeptical mind away, and it is bouncing with energy. So the key thing here is how we show up with presence, and our presence is so important. We cover this in Clarity and Pressure, because that takes you from not just surviving the day, but actually truly thriving. So the cynicism loop, this is where your presence comes into play. Be, do, and then get. So you show up the way you want to, the future self, regardless of the situation. So, if other people are being toxic, you don't need to, I suppose, go down to their level. You can be who you want to be. And I do realize we're just at time here, but I'm over delivering for you. So stay with me here. Let's get to the end of this. So be, do, and then get. This is very important. How you show up is how people react to you. So your presence is so critical. Show up that's going to actually, in a way that's actually going to serve you. Because if you show up in a way that's low energy, skeptical, and so on, and that's going to impact your results, because that impacts what people think of you and the decisions that they make, because decisions are emotional. Let that sink in for a bit. Decisions are emotional. People are emotional. So if you show up guarded, skeptical, they're not going to be able to connect with you. You're not going to be able to get the results that you want. So it's almost, this one is counterintuitive. This seems opposite to what seems natural. Because all you want to do when you've had disappointment after disappointment, loss of trust after loss of trust, your trust is eroded down to zero. The last thing you want to do is lead with trust. But that's exactly what you have to do. This one is the oxymoron. This one is the opposite of what feels natural. But sometimes that's how we grow. That's how we get where we want. That's how we get the expansive life we want. So you get back by re-engaging. B, you decide who you want to be, as who you want to show up as, right? That future self, if you want to be that energetic individual, that positive energy individual, this is how you show up today. And that is that will sort of generate the energy and the motivation to do the activities you need to do that align with that energy. And then you'll get the results that then also align with the energy. So it's all about alignment. Be, do, and then get. So it's taking that, it's taking I will care when things turn around versus things will change when I start caring again. So it's owning that. Cynicism breaks when you stop watching your life on mute and start showing up with intention. So the key thing here is to lead with trust. And think about when you come across events, when you come across people, and you think in your head, is this storyline serving me? Or is it holding me back? Is it going to help me connect with this individual and help me progress my career? Or is it going to hold me back? So is this storyline serving me? And what type of learnings can I have from this? So how can I grow? How can I expand my life? For those older individuals on this is just like the Pillsbury Doughboy. Some people will poke you in terms of the toxicity, but let it bounce back, right? You are your own person. You show up how you want to be. So this is important because life's a mirror. People mirror back what we give to them. So if we give them understanding, compassion, trust, they will mirror that back to us. For the most part. And life will mirror the results back to us. So the thoughts in terms of how we show up, turn that skepticism into positivity, into learnings. What can I learn from this? And is this storyline actually serving my future? So you can learn more about this influence in our modules 1 and 2 in clarity and pressure. So we discussed today 3 of the loops. There's more, certainly. And there's certainly more loops that happen in order to drive burnout. So the first one we discussed, avoidance loops that keep you cycling or circling the same task. And then avoidance is basically stuck on a loading screen. So what can you do? The 10% method. It is talking about the next step. Break that procrastination. You can do it. The next one was the overwhelming loops that make you sprint and then crash. Overwhelm is when you have 12 apps on 5% battery. It's the background processes, not the individual apps. And this is all about unlearning the comparison culture, because we're doing all of those apps. We've got the 12 apps because we're trying to catch up to others. And then there's the cynicism loop, the last one there that we covered. That is draining meaning from everything you do. It's like watching life on a muted live stream. So what you can do about that is be, do, and then get. Watch your presence. Be the person you want to be. Show up how you want to be. So that is the burnout, the truth behind burnout that no one ever told you. It's the patterns that we get caught in. And we've got more strategies with how to deal with this, how to counter these loops, how to break the loops. We've got more of these in our Clarity Under Pressure series. So if you want to take it to the next level, try our Clarity Under Pressure series. You go get that. If there's a particular module that you want rather than the entire series, you can do that as well, and take a tester of it. This is going to move you from just feeling drowned to actually, I've got this. It's a change in thought. It's a change in momentum. It will empower you through and help you navigate your career. So there are 5 modules with our Clarity Under Pressure series. And let me just quickly go through these for you, because these are important and one might stand out to you more than others. So where are you struggling these days? Or where do you want support these days? There's 5 modules. The first is communication influence. We spoke about a few things here today that are covered in that series, in that module. This module is about taking you where you are to where you want to go. So communication influence underpins every interaction, every email, everything we do is communication. Even when we don't say things, that is communication. Communication is body language, tone, voice, and it is our words as well. So there's so much in communication and influence, especially when we're the most junior person in the room. How do we actually influence the room? Well, we talk about this in our Clarity Under Pressure series. You don't need a fancy title in order to influence the room. You just need strategies as to how. And on that, that comes into the emotional intelligence, understanding the room in order to be able to influence it. So emotional intelligence, we all think that we have, strong emotional intelligence until someone actually unpicks us and asks us key questions about it. It's like, oh, I didn't realize that. And I thought I was self-aware, but maybe I've got a bit to learn. And if we're not seeing the results that we want, this is possibly a contributor to that. Understanding, the other dynamics in the room. Do you understand everything that's happening? Right? So emotional intelligence is huge. Identity and resilience, this is how you bounce back from a setback. This is rapid recovery and presence. We spoke about presence within the cynicism loop today, and that comes out in this module here. So that is identity and resilience. It is presence. It is the bounce back. This is when you're facing adversity, check out this one, because this is going to help you bounce back. And then the next one, we live in a world of distractions. So that's been my, I suppose the summary of my life recently is distractions, and they can come in all forms. It's the emails, it's the pings, it's the people coming by. This is a distraction away from what you're trying to focus on. So if you need help with the focus, with intention, this module's for you. Number 4. And the 5th module, that is decisions with uncertainty. So that, once again, I mentioned that earlier on, that is where you need to know how to make the next step. So if you're struggling with the next step, if you feel that overwhelm, this one is for you. We do have a lot of uncertainty, more uncertainty these days than before. There feels like more weight on each decision. This one will ease the load. It will help give you clarity. It'll give you strategies to use when you feel that overwhelm for decisions. So check out these 5 modules. It's the Clarity Under Pressure series. And where do you want to be a year from now? Where do you want to be? Do you want that promotion, that better work-life balance? Do you want better connections with people, a better network? Well, this is your chance. because we're 8 months into 2026. And is 2026 looking identical to 2025? Because you don't want to live 100 years, but have the same, but living 100 years and it's living the same year every year, right? If you've got the same pattern, the same activities, the same tasks, and seeing the same results as last year, this is your chance to change. This is your chance to transform your life. So if you don't do that now, if you don't take action today, you're going to be caught in that procrastination loop, that avoidance loop. And it's going to happen that you're going to procrastinate tomorrow and the next day. And then you're not going to reach your true potential. You're not going to reach that vision that you want, those goals that you want. They're so important for you. They're going to help you make that fulfilling life, that joyful life that you want. Just don't throw it away. Take action today. And we're going to help you do that with our discount today. So Clarity Under Pressure series, there's a 15% discount for our live stream viewers only. Invest in yourself if you expect others to do the same. So this is your chance. By far the best investment you can make in yourself is in yourself. And if you invest in yourself, nobody can take that away from you. That is from Warren Buffett, one of the most successful businessmen in the world today. Take advantage of this limited time discount, the 15% exclusive to our live stream here today. And then it will be a matter of controlling your destiny, because you've got to control your destiny or someone else will. You'll be absorbed in other people's visions, other people's goals, other people's tasks. You'll be taking on everything else for them rather than yourself. Today, be selfish. It's okay to be selfish. Do something for you today. So actions today, Clarity Under Pressure series. Take advantage of that discount. Join us for our next live stream, which is next Tuesday. So we are skipping this Thursday, but next Tuesday is our live stream. And take one action from today that's actually going to help you and your dreams. So what's the action for you today? Is it something to do with the avoidance loop, taking that 10%, breaking down a project for that 10%, and doing a 10% task, one task that's going to actually help you move forward? Is it unlearning the comparison culture? Is it owning your own path, actually reflecting on what you want that path to be? Where do you want your vision to be? Is it just unpicking everything and just looking at where you want you to be? And also today, choose who you want to be, how you want to show up. Something that's actually going to help you and your vision, get you closer to that vision. So thank you for joining today. And take one of these actions, take away some of the tasks. These slides are up on our school community, so definitely join. And there's slides from all of our live streams as well as recordings available. So thank you for joining, and hope you have a lovely day, a lovely, terrific Tuesday. And thank you for joining.